Mark, thanks for that video. I just watched both of them actually. I'm going to respond to the last one, but I'll touch on some of the things that you said in the first one as well. Um, you talked about how the fact that that our mind is sort of maintained by a brain sort of cuts us off from reality, and we can't ever know reality in itself. So, in other words, if there is an external world out there outside of my body, I can never know it objectively because everything my brain does is a construction of some kind, and it's not the true reality. I have no access to the true reality um, because our mind is only a part, and it can't conceive of the whole. Um, and it follows then that there's no real knowledge of the world. There's only belief, and I'm sympathetic to your to that view. But I don't think, and you touched on this too, I don't think all of our experience is conceptual. In other words, all of our spirit experience is not necessarily a construction because all of our experience is not necessarily in terms of concepts or in terms of symbols and language. So we don't have to mediate all of our experience through the mind. The idea that there is an external world that we try to know but never actually succeed in knowing is really a hypothesis. We don't have to assume that there is an external world. I mean, other than the one that we see and experience, at least. To make this, to think that there would be an objective external world surrounding us that we can never reach, it's a fine theory to assume that, but I don't know if we need to, because below the level of our conceptual mind, we still have these feelings, these intuitions, and intuitions are probably higher than the conceptual mind. But if you want, I don't know, we don't really have to grade them, but we have access to a kind of knowledge and a kind of truth that is not conceptual, um, because like you described with evolution, we are matter that became life, that became mind, aware of itself. And so we're intimately connected to everything else that there is. And while we can't know it objectively, we can experience it objectively, right? Because my mind isn't just a part. I mean, conceptually, I think of myself as an individual who is housed right here for the most part, or at least in my whole body. But that's only a conception. In reality, I'm not just this brain. Like you said, we're all involved. We all have a common ancestor, not only a common organic ancestor, but a common material and energetic ancestor, which is the point at the Big Bang. So our brain conceptions aren't necessarily all that we are. And you mentioned death and how it stops our connection to the time flow. And I think that you're right, it is the most important thing that any of us will ever experience. And I think you mentioned this as well, that we can, various religions, most religions are really a human reaction to death, and they're trying to allow us to somehow cope with death. And, Christianity, or at least the more mainstream versions of Christianity teach that you have to be good in this life and not sin, so that after you die, you'll go to heaven. And that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. Um, I like Buddhism's interpretation of it better, which is that you should learn to die while you're still alive, because as far as most of the Buddhist teachings are concerned, you can experience death while you're alive. Death is basically nirvana. It's Nirvana means exhale. So you finally let go and you drop the game and you stop trying to survive, because ultimately you know you're going to die. We all know we're going to die, and that's why it's um, the most important event in our lives, because it is the confrontation with the eternal, the confrontation with the infinite. And if we can confront that before we die and be ready for it, it changes the way we perceive life entirely, because life and death, we think of them as opposites, but really they're one thing. It's life death. I'm dying every moment, and I'm being born every moment. And coming to terms with, or not coming to terms with, not learning how to conceive of or conceptualize death, but learning how to experience death. So coming to experience death can be very transformative, I think. Because we do, you said everything is a belief, but we do know that we're going to die. We know we're going to die. And if we can incorporate that knowledge into our life, I think it will add a lot to our experience. In your second video, you talked about language and how language is really what gives rise to this mind and gives rise to our feeling of being separate from one another, separate from the universe, all these symbols and words and thoughts that we, like you said, our parents drill into us from as soon as we're born by talking to us. And I'm actually going to do another whole video about what I think about this language stuff, because it applies to so many other things than just your video, but you definitely inspired me to do that. So check that out if you want to. It should be up very shortly after this one. So again, thanks, Mark, for your response. I really enjoyed it, and everybody else, please keep them coming.